Affiliate station. The following program is a paid advertisement and does not necessarily represent the views, opinions, or endorsements of Signal Hill Media Partners, its affiliate stations, or its advertisers. The following program is a paid advertisement and does not necessarily represent the views, opinions, or endorsements of Signal Hill Media Partners, its affiliate stations, or its advertisers. Welcome to Taking Care of NC, the program dedicated to exploring the issues, opportunities, and challenges shaping the great state of North Carolina. Join your host, Representative Jeff McNeely, as he delves into meaningful discussions about politics, community initiatives, and the people working to make a difference. Whether it's tackling local concerns, highlighting state achievements, or addressing pressing legislative matters, this show is your go-to source for understanding how North Carolina is growing and thriving. Stay tuned as we kick off another insightful episode of Taking Care of NC.
Good morning, North Carolina. Hope everybody's doing well out there. It's a little cool this morning. It's warming up, though. It's going to be a nice day. It's going to be a lovely day in North Carolina. Hey, I got a good friend of mine, Tommy Ray Chapman, with me this morning here in the studio. Tommy runs a local service station here. Him and his family have ran that since probably, 1963 or 4 or something?
1968.
68.
58, almost 58 years.
Yeah, long time here in the community. Done a lot of good work for people and good neighbors, good community partners. And the reason I brought him in, there's been this little bit of a ruckus passed around here lately. One of my good friends, Howard Penny, who's a representative from down in Harnett County, Howard filed a bill called HB 153. And basically what HB 153 is to start a discussion about increasing the fee. It's not a tax, y'all, and I'll explain that in a minute here, the difference. Increasing the fee for state inspections on vehicles, with the increase all going to the service providers, the people who actually do the inspection. The state's part stays the same. So, and we're going to take calls even during the first part of the show. This is actually started a pretty big ruckus on social media, and where I fall into play in this is I'm one of the chairs on House Transportation. So this bill will come to me, and this is something I feel like that's been needed to be talked about now for the last couple years or last while. And I think it's going to be an interesting discussion. Don't know where we end up with this right now. The way the bill's written, it will be $16 more than what you're paying a year on these inspections. Now, know this, up to, which is a great term I love to use as a county commissioner. I'm famous for up to. But basically, it's going to increase the safety inspection to $29, and it's going to increase the safety inspection and the emissions to $40. So a $16 rise in both, all going to the people that actually do the inspection. So I'm going to talk with Tommy. Like I said, we will take some calls. The number here, I always take a look at it, 704-873-9929. Tommy Ray, just give us a little history about Chapman's Travelers and your family and you, who you are, and how long, been in this community all your life. Tell everybody who you are. This is the Iredell County boy, but this is a statewide issue for all that are listening.
All right, well, thank you, Jeff, for having me on, and hopefully we can put to bed a lot of these concerns about the pricing and who's getting it and whatnot. My dad went to that service station was on West Front Street for many years before the fence got put up in 1968. And we have been doing automotive inspections since the beginning of time, as I say, joking.
And a lot of them.
A lot of them. We average, just a little information, we average about 500 inspections per month.
Wow.
And we are heavily regulated. We have, now how you like this if you're independent business, we actually have people from the state that will come undercover, sneak in, and try to catch us doing something wrong. And we are fined severely if we were ever to do that. Luckily, it's been a long time since we've had any issues with like check engine lights, and I could tell you stories you wouldn't believe. But anyway, we've been doing inspections
I would.
a long time, and since this OBD, onboard diagnostic inspection started, and we call it the emission inspection technically, but when we have to hook the car up, it runs through the computer. The computer passes or fails based on if the check engine light's on and off. But you know, since that began some 20 years ago, the price has not gone up. We've been making the same amount of money for over 20 years. And if you know anything about owning and operating a business, if you're still charging the same rates you were charging 20 years ago, you're out of business. And we've been facing that. And just to be completely transparent, I have never contacted Jeff and begged him to go up on the rates, nor do I know anybody that has.
I have had some garages. I talked to them about it.
And excuse me, that's bad English to keep saying but
It's all right.
you know, I've been doing them a long time, ever since I think I got my license when I was either 20 or 21 back in the day, and I'm 61 now, so that'll give you an idea how long I've been doing it. And we've never made a lot of money at it, but it was, you know, just sort of like selling soft drinks with your hamburgers. It's just something extra for us to do, but it's gotten to the point to where, you know, the average, well, I don't know what the average, I know our labor rate's $100 an hour, and we're probably.
That's what you hope to make.
That's what we hope to make on the labor side. We're one of the cheapest in town. There's labor rates as high as $180. And on a typical inspection, if we can do 3 an hour, that's a pretty good rate. And so you do the math on that. If we walked out with $30 a piece, that's well under our, you know, our labor rate.
Yeah, because the state gets a part.
The state gets a part, and then we keep the rest. And we would average probably around $25 an inspection. And that doesn't include paying for employees. That's just what goes to the shop. But we keep, just another information, we keep, I've got 4, not counting myself, 4 licensed inspectors. That all costs money because we all have to go take classes every year, every other year. And there's a lot of expense that goes in keeping the machine going, you know, paper, ink, this, that, and the other. So
y'all lease that machine too, right?
Yeah, absolutely. We lease the machine. And when we first started up, just for some information, it cost us about $10,000 to get in the emission inspection business because we had to buy this brand new high-tech machine that came out, and by the time we did everything to get in the business, we probably spent close to $10,000 to get in the business. Now, that's been 20 years ago.
And y'all don't really take appointments. It's just people show up.
Exactly.
So you could be working on whatever, and you'll just basically stop and go do the inspection then. So you're walking away from a job where you may be making that $100 an hour to go to a job where you may be gonna, in that next hour, make $30 an hour.
Exactly. And that's hard to do. However, when people come into our shop, they expect us to be ready, willing, right then. And, you know, we pride ourselves on the fact that if you've ever been in our shop and waited an hour to get your car inspected, that would be an anomaly. We typically got you in and out in 30 minutes. And that's why I keep 3 and 4 licensed inspectors other than myself there all the time.
Yeah.
So we can do it.
And like I said, you know, the bad thing too, unfortunately, labor has gone up.
Yes,
We've
sir.
seen this, and gone up significantly just in the last 4 years. Because when inflation kicked in, I know the guys that work for me come to me and say, hey, I can't afford to eat. We got to do something. So we're all paying more for labor than we ever have, and significantly increased it here in just the last 4 years. I mean, like a big jump, 20 to 30% more you're paying just to get people to stay with you so you don't lose them. And it's hard to find, you know, it's hard to find people that can do this job that is mechanically minded, and then they have to go and get schooling, and they have continuing education every year. So you pay for them to go and get the continuing ed. So they're out of work that day and gone somewhere studying, which that's fine.
No, typically they go at night.
Oh, do they?
That's even worse.
Okay.
'Cause everybody hates to go down there to the cat's place at night and spend 3 or 4 hours. And
Wow.
And that's 2
But
nights.
you probably have to pay them to go do that, don't you?
Oh yeah, I'll pay them something.
Yeah,
Exactly.
yeah. So you're getting their time. So you, once again, and you're not really seeing that. So there's overhead, and then insurance is always involved in all this stuff. So, and so, you know, the big thing that everybody wants to come out and see and say and do and all this is, well, let's just do away with inspections altogether. And
Bad idea.
and I think that's a very slippery slope. Now, folks out there know this: if your county touches Mecklenburg County or touches Wake County, then you unfortunately are trapped into the EPA's air quality alert. And that's why Iredell County has to do emissions. That's why I think Lincolnton, Gaston, I'm not sure about Catawba. But I do know all the ones that touch, which are quite a few counties. That's why we've had to do these emissions all along. Now, I have petitioned, me and some of the other representatives, Jason Sane did it last year, John Torbett from down in Gaston County. I think Donnie Loftus was involved, and I think even David Willis with Union. Some of the counties surrounding Mecklenburg, we have petitioned our Division of Environmental DEQ to take us out of the emissions program because our air quality is not suffering. And so it took them forever to get this done, y'all. And we finally passed out at the end of 23, and it was October of 24 before they finally said they had all their facts and figures together and submitted it to the U.S. EPA. And so I think it will take about another year if government moves like they say it will move or does for us to get out of the emissions program. So there's actually a good chance that this amount of money you spend every year, if you're in one of these counties that touch Mecklenburg, is going to be less.
Exactly.
It's going to be less.
And I would say to the listeners out there, you know, the ones that's gotten all your feathers in a ruffle, is you should be thanking Representative McNeely, because he has pushed for that, to do away with the OBD. And I'm looking at him cross-eyed when he was telling me that.
Because he's got money in the game.
Because I got money in the game. But it's going to save the people of Iredell County a lot of money, because when that does take place, hopefully next year, and you notice I said hopefully, I don't have a problem with it at all, because we've got a business, we do other stuff. But when that's going to save people untold amounts of money, because if you've ever had a check engine light on and you've had to go to fixing it, you know that the state mandates that you spend $200. I think it's now down to $200, but that's usually only a start to get that light fixed. And knowing, you know, being I don't really call myself a mechanic, but I've got some really good mechanics, ASE certified mechanic, and nailing down the true cause of that light sometimes can be a nightmare. And your labor just runs up and up and up, and having that off the table is going to save people a lot of money.
Well, you know, there's a lot of cars that are setting because they can't pass the emissions, and they're not that old.
Jeff, I've got 3 or 4. I've got 4 dealers, 3 that do a lot of cars with me. That when they buy a car at the sale, they'll bring them straight to us, and we service them, go through them, check all the. You know, if they've got an emission light on, we check all that. And I'm not going to mention his name because I didn't ask, and I'm not going to mention anybody's name in public, but he's one of our best customers, located on Front Street, and he's probably got 10 or 12 cars behind his shop that he just pulled back there and parked because it was going to cost so much to get them fixed. Well, he'd be out of the profit margin, so he's just sitting back there waiting
for the day.
Waiting for the day to come to where he's not going to have to spend $1,200 to get a car fixed to make it pass inspection.
I think you were talking about this, but on the Facebook, why can't North Carolina do South Carolina does and has no inspections?
Okay, my Facebook ain't up.
Jeff, can I comment?
Yeah,
on
well,
that?
go ahead.
One of the reasons, and I'm just telling you by experience, there's not a week that goes by at our shop that we don't pull a car in, and this is just a for instance, that the brakes are scrubbing metal on metal. And these people, as well-intentioned as they may be, they ride around with the radio on, I don't know, and when you bring it to their attention, they're like, well, you're kidding me. But people will ride around, you know, I'm not saying intentionally, but they will ride around inherently with bald tires, metal sticking out of the tires, could blow out. We're wondering how they made it into our shop. And if it wasn't for inspections, they'd be riding around on your roads. And these same people, I know, the same people that got all these concerns would be the first ones to be wanting to sue somebody if their family was involved in an accident because somebody's tire blew out running through an intersection, or their brakes didn't work and operate correctly and they run in the back of you. Then all Sam Hill would break loose. And why in the world don't we have inspections? Well, that's why we do have inspections, is to protect you and my family, because I don't want my family. I've been to South Carolina too many times, and I see what rides around on the roads in South Carolina, and it's not a joke. It's a very serious thing, especially with the amount of traffic that we now have.
Well, and I think this is one thing, and so South Carolina's our neighbor, and they're going to try to tell you, I've seen, you can go on the internet and find all kind of facts and figures. It always say whenever you're praying to the Lord, frame your prayer to get the answer you want from God, because that's what a lot of people do. If you just say, God, show me, he gives you a whole lot different answer than you probably like, but if you frame it right. So I've heard all kind of stuff, but what it is the truth is there's really about 33 states right now that ask for some kind of inspection. Some are in like North Carolina, there's about, I think 16, 17 that are actually have an annual inspection and really go through the cars fairly thorough and check them out. Some not so much, some do it every other year, some just do emissions, but there's some kind of check. And usually when those cars are in the shop, those 33 states, yeah, people are looking. And the big thing I hear from a lot of people, they're just getting an upcharge on all the other stuff. They're going to get you in there and go, well, you have a right as a consumer to say, no, I'm good. I'll take care of this. I'll do whatever. If you don't want the extras, but you've got to get your car inspected. And Tommy Ray, I'm sure you fix cars. You've also seen cars leave your place. Yes. And people have took them elsewhere or took them home and fixed them themselves, and y'all brought them back.
Absolutely. We're required by law to tell the customer that you're free to take this car. Now, it's going to fail the inspection, and we're going to give you the paperwork on what failed, but you're always free to take that car to another mechanic, another dealership, whatever it may be, and get that car fixed. And you're never forced to have your car fixed at my place.
You're not held hostage.
Right. And you can come back to my place after you get it fixed and get the car re-inspected, and the only thing you pay at that point is just the state fee, which is 85 cents to $6.25.
Yep. 85 for inspection is what the state gets, $6.25
Yeah.
for safety and emissions, and it's staying the same. State makes no money out of this at all. No, all this, and like I said, the stations don't have to charge this max amount. This bill, if we even get it to committee, it's not even got to committee yet. I did a co-sponsor on it, and a co-sponsor, folks, is a lot like liking something on Facebook. I see a bill that I think is necessary to be brought and talked about, whether it actually gets passed in the form it is or we change it. That a lot of things happen. I always tell everybody we change stuff down there all day long. That don't necessarily mean we pass anything. We just try to figure it out. So this is a good discussion, I think, to have. And I'm glad Howard brought this bill, and we're going to discuss it further this week down there. It's not even got to committee yet. And if it does, I'll be one of the chairs there. I don't know if it'll be my turn to hear or not when it comes to committee, but it's highly possible. But doesn't necessarily mean I'm going to vote for it, but I do think it's something that needs to be heard. And so that's one of the reasons. And so that's why I did a co-sponsor. I'm not the main sponsor, but a co-sponsor to bring this to committee. And let's talk about this, because 25 years is a long time for us not to change a service that we require private business to do. I don't know of anybody else that's working for the same thing they did 25 years ago. I wish Pepsi's were a quarter again, like they were when I was a kid, but nothing's like that. So, but if we do away with the inspections altogether, and I've heard that, okay. Well, what I have found out, I called down and talked to the Department of Insurance of South Carolina, because all this stuff has been put out on Facebook. I've tried to do my homework. That's what y'all are having me do. That's why you elected me, to try to make wise decisions with the facts I got. Called down there, and they wouldn't exactly tell me what their insurance rates were, because they said, well, it varies from vehicle to vehicle, and I get all that. we got to talking about the declaration page. And I don't know how many of y'all know on insurance what the declaration, but that's basically that front page. It talks about uninsured motorists and bodily injury and
Underinsured, uninsured.
underinsured and all these different things. And they started telling me their minimum requirements, which is what most of us, when we get insurance, we take the minimum because that's the cheapest insurance because we think we're never going to have an issue. You know, we think we're blessed. And so most of the stuff on their page was about half of what we require in the state of North Carolina. Now, maybe a lot of people say, well, we ought to lower those levels down to South Carolina's also. But I'm telling you right now, with where their levels were, you get hit in South Carolina, you better be ready to fix your own car if somebody runs into you down there because they're not going to have the insurance to do it. Yeah. And I pray you don't get hurt. I pray you never have a wreck. But I'm just telling you, their insurance, where they've had set up, is not good. And then I talked to our insurance. I talked to them over there at the Department of Insurance. And, you know, they said, well, I asked him, I said, what if we do away with inspections completely here in North Carolina? And the guy, Department of Insurance, he's like number 3 or 4 man. He goes, well, I don't know. We've never even considered it. So it wasn't like that. So he said, we can do some research and find out. And so I said, well, just, you know, your best guess being in this business, what do you think happens if we do it to our insurance rates? And he said, oh, I truly believe that you'll see a 25 to 30% increase in your auto insurance if we do away with inspections, because that'll be a knee-jerk reaction from the insurance companies. Because what they don't know, and they're going to make sure they don't lose money. So, and there's stuff out, I've seen all kind of opinion editorials on Facebook that, you know, I can go find mine that says, you know, we've had all kind of more fatalities. I can do. The question is, do you want one more fatality? Do you want one more person to be hurt in any way, especially somebody you care and love? And
especially when you're talking about amount like we're talking about,
yeah.
$15, $16.
Yeah.
And just to reiterate what Jeff's saying, because I've done a little homework. I actually had insurance license 15, 16 years ago. And I remember sitting in the class, the girl who worked for the insurance company was conducting the class. And she made the comment that y'all are so lucky y'all got a state inspection, because if you didn't, your insurance would be 30% higher. Now, there's stuff that's been put out online, you know, somebody posts an article that says it's cheaper. Well, now, all I got to do is just ask you one thing, just to think about that for a minute. What sense does that make? Like Jeff was talking about praying to the Lord a while ago, you got to know when you're asking questions who you're asking and who wrote those articles, because that's just not true. Your insurance will not get cheaper. It wouldn't make any sense for an insurance company. They're in the business to make money, and they make a lot of it. They make way more than $100 an hour. But with that being said, I can tell you absolutely, coming from the mouth of an agent, not an agent, but a company person, that our insurance is definitely 25, 30%. And you're talking about, you know, for most people's car insurance, that's going to way outweigh the cost of an increase in an inspection.
Well, and you know, I actually talked to, you know, I couldn't get an actual figure, so I talked to a good friend of mine, actually 2 that I know I've talked to. One, she kind of sent me a text. The other one I actually talked on the phone, and he had moved to South Carolina about a year ago, and he said he experienced about a 40% increase for the exact same insurance, because he took his declaration page and everything to there, and he says, what's it going to take for me to get insurance here like this? And it was about a 40% increase in South Carolina over what he's doing now. The lady that texted me, her daughter moved down there. She said she experienced about a 30% increase going to South Carolina. So the question is, what are you willing to pay? Less, more, whatever. And that's the discussion that we're having today. That's the discussion we'll have at the General Assembly. What makes the most sense in this? Is it the $16 more, or is it the $100 and some more probably on your car insurance a year? Or is it that litigation when you go to court because you're stopped by a police officer? And I've heard people say that. Well, the police can do inspections. And yet when they do inspections, you're going to get a bill. Yeah, it's a ticket.
Exactly.
And court costs right now, I think, are about $255 or maybe $275. It's outrageous.
You know, and I know this from talking to, got a lot of friends that's been in the sheriff's department, a few that's been in the city police, and they're not near as likely to pull you over for a tail light being out in an inspection state, because they know you're going to get it fixed. It might not be today or tomorrow, but they know when you go in and get your car inspected, it's going to be fixed either by the car owner or by the shop to get it past inspection. And you just get one ticket, see what that costs you. You know, if you do away with inspections, I promise you they'll be writing tickets for headlights, for tail lights, for bald tires when they've got you pulled over on the side of the road. And those tickets are going to be multiple times of what the inspection is. And, you know, just back to the safety issue. You know, I was one of these people, when I tell you my hair was on fire when they opened up the HOV lane and charging people to drive down the HOV lane. But you know what? When my wife goes down that way now, I say, honey, get in the HOV lane. And I get that bill every month, and it ranges anywhere from, it might be $10 one month, it might be $25. But you know why I tell her to get in that lane? Because it's safe. And every time she'll tell me that every time she goes down 77, Mooresville, Huntersville, Cornelius, you know what's over in the other lane? Every single time, an accident. An accident. So I'm willing to spend, you know, $20 a month for my wife and my family safety to drive in that HOV lane. Even though I detest it, I think it's one of the worst things we've ever done, but because we're already paying tax for those lanes. But that's another story, another thing. But
That's why Pat McCrory is no longer mayor of Charlotte.
that's
And
right.
no longer governor of the state, no, but for
Yeah.
one term.
Yeah,
but
that's
for one
good-
term.
good
But
point.
you know, one other thing, and I tell you, this is quick around here, man. They're getting close to the half-hour mark. One thing too, you also got to understand in this is the litigation side. And when these inspections that you go and get, that gives you some kind of validity. It also probably y'all have to have some liability insurance.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, because you get out here, let's say you get inspected, the next day you're in a wreck, you know, and so there's this lawyer going to show up and he's going to say, well, your car was not adequate to be on the highway. You had no brakes, or you this, that, and the other. And you're going to say, well, I just got it inspected.
Yeah.
And so, but without this, I can tell you right now, every lawyer in the state that does personal injury is licking their lips saying, oh boy, because there's going to be, I mean, they're going to be after every accident that happens. They're going to try to prove it. And I explained to Tommy Ray, and we're getting close down here to the end, but he's going to hang out with me a little while longer. So if people want to call in the second half, you can. But, you know, we need tort reform. And basically what it is if you're going 2 miles an hour over the speed limit, but somebody runs a red light and T-bones you, there's some fault found in you for going 2 miles an hour over the speed limit in North Carolina. I don't think that's right myself. I think the guy that ran through the stoplight is definitely the perpetrator. But this is what you're going to get. You're going to open up a Pandora's box for the legal system to be flooded with more and more litigation over cars that shouldn't be on the road. And always remember this, folks. If we don't have these inspections, then you're counting on your fellow man and woman to do their part. And just go look in Walmart parking lot and see how many shopping carts are stuck around everywhere instead of put back in the rack where they belong. And so you're counting on those people that can't put their shopping cart back to make sure their car is safe. I want you to think about this real long and hard. We'll talk some more in the second hour. We're going to take our break. Tommy's going to stay with us. We're going to go into some news that happened at the White House. Stay tuned.
We all play a role in keeping our community safe.
Every day, we move in and out of each other's busy lives.
It's easy to take for granted all the little moments that make up our everyday.
Some are good,
Others not so much.
But that's life.
It's when something doesn't seem quite right.
that it's time to pay attention.
Because only you know what's not supposed to be in your everyday.
So protect your everyday.
If you see something suspicious, say something to local authorities.
Bravo, Brenda. You've always been a saver. Price matching your price matches. The self-proclaimed queen of extreme couponing. But this time, you've truly outdone yourself. By saving for this electric vehicle, you're locking in up to $1,000 a year in fuel and maintenance savings, which will leave you saying, cha-ching, every time you unplug. Good for your wallet, great for the planet. That's the power of EV. Sponsored by the NC Clean Energy Technology Center and the North Carolina Association of Broadcasters in cooperation with this station.
Plan on flying? It's time to upgrade to a Real ID. Because in order to board domestic flights, your driver's license or state-issued ID must be a Real ID, or you'll need another acceptable form of identification. So don't wait. Find out how to get your Real ID at tsa.gov/Real ID. That's tsa.gov/Real ID, or visit your local DMV. And then you'll be cleared for takeoff.
Hurricane Helene, devastating impacts on the Southeast. Now it's time to help the people and communities who need it most. To make a one-time financial gift to the American Red Cross and enter how much you'd like to donate. Or go to redcross.org/donate. Together, we will make a difference for those recovering in hard-hit communities.
We all want more for North Carolina. More boundless views, more adventures in the outdoors, and more clean roads to get there. But to get more, we have to do less. Less littering, that is. Make it your nature to trash your trash and keep NC clean. And we'll all have more reasons to love North Carolina. Litter less, get more. For more on the 7 outdoor NC Leave No Trace principles, visit OutdoorNC.com. Sponsored by the North Carolina Association of Broadcasters and Visit North Carolina, a part of the Economic Development Partnership of North Carolina in cooperation with this station.
All right, back here for the second half of the show. If anybody'd like to call in, 704-873-9929. We're talking car inspections. We're talking politics. We're talking junk. We're talking anything we can. So anyway, hey, instead Tommy's going to hang out with me here for some more in the show. Real quick, I don't know how many of y'all saw the Great Theater performance the other day in the White House, Trump and Zelensky meeting, and J.D. Vance involved. And I'm just going to just throw this out there right off the beginning. Zelensky met with the minority, the Democrats, before meeting with Trump. And I truly believe the left told him to stand up or stick his nose in or lean in or whatever the term is you want to call it. And buck the deal with Trump to see if he could out-negotiate him or just kill the deal altogether. And so I really think that this was an inside job, as we like to say. If someone wants to call and talk about that, we can. But, here's one thing you've got to like on this, whether you like Trump or hate Trump or whatever. I've never seen this much transparency. I've never seen this transparency like we have. And Lord knows, Joe Biden could have never carried on this conversation at all. So that's one of the reasons we ain't seen it for 4 years. But even before, I mean, we actually saw how the sausage is made. And it ain't always pretty what goes into the sausage. You hope it tastes good when you get done, but it ain't always pretty. And here we came to like a conflict in the road. And basically, Zelensky was trying to bargain right there in front of the American people, the world, the press, everybody for a better deal. He's had this deal. He came to sign this deal. He knew the deal, and he tried to twist the deal. And that's not how negotiations work. Once you agree to the deal, if we're just waiting for the ink to dry and you want to start changing it, well, that's not a whole lot different than Putin not sticking up and keeping his word in some of the ceasefire agreements and prisoner swaps that Zelensky complained about.
Jeff, can I ask you,
Yeah.
how much approximately have we given Ukraine federal?
Well, right now, from what I can tell, about $183 billion.
Did you happen to see there was an article this morning, I read these little news pages, but the EU, they jumped in and they met with him, and what they offered to give him, and it was a loan, and it was like a single digit.
Yeah.
I can't remember, 7-8 billion. And I thought, well, that's laughable. We gave them the money. There was never the term loan. They were going to pay us back with interest, any of that. Maybe that's what
That's poor negotiating.
Give the very poor negotiating, and maybe that's what this minerals deal was meant to.
Well, that's pretty much what it is. It was two things will happen with this deal. One, it will be a way for the United States of America to maybe recapture some of the loss money that we put in there in a war that has drug on and on and on. But the other part of it is it's going to put United States, its citizens, it's going to put people from America there doing this labor part. So there's going to be a presence. America's actually going to have a presence. Now, will they have arms? Will they be able to shoot back or what? I don't know. But we're counting on putting Americans there. So we're going to make sure American lives are protected. We're going to look after this. So that's one of the things that makes the deal, you know, he kept saying, well, what security do I have? They'll break the rule. Well, okay, I truly believe exactly what kind of Trump said. This should have never happened. I said all along, when we watched for 6 or 8 months, Russia start fortifying that border with troops. Well, they're not doing it because they're running exercises. We knew that. Everybody, this wasn't one of those nights where we woke up the next morning and the Russians were in our backyard. They were planning, they were supplying, they were getting their supply line set up, they were getting everything ready. It looks like an invasion, y'all, and it went on for a long time. If we put 10,000 troops, American troops, I hate to say this, but if we put them on that border before they cross, Russia will not cross that border. But we basically did nothing. Saw it has happened. So we pretty much invited Vladimir Putin to come on in because he saw that the people that could stop him weren't going to do anything to stop him. We had a weak president and he wasn't afraid. You know, I tell you what, you get a big enough dog, you'll keep people out of your yard. That's just all there is to it.
Works kind of like that every time.
Yeah. But, you know, after watching this for a while, my question really is, does Zelensky really want this war to end?
Probably not if he keeps getting billions of dollars.
Well, that's what I'm, you know, and then my next question is, does the Democrats not want this war to end? And if not, then where's Doge at to find out where the money went? And is it coming back in some form or another to some political party?
That's a very good question. And I think that's going to surprise a lot of people because they will, I'll guarantee you that they will eventually check in to see where that money went. And it's your money at home, folks. It's my money. It's your money. It's not just, they just pull it out of a rabbit's hat. They pulled it out of the Treasury, which we have to pay back.
Well, and I know I got a good friend who does cybersecurity all over the world, and he has been there himself and has told me there's basically 2 sets of army in Ukraine. There is the actual army of Ukraine, who are well supplied, well dressed uniforms with swastika on the left arm. They have all the abilities, they have all the weaponry, and then there's the militia who are having to buy their own ammunition and basically fund themselves to fight the Russians. So it troubles me to think that you have 2 sets of people fighting, and one is evidently monetarily being supplemented, and the other one is do the best you can, save up your money so you can buy more bullets. And that's been going on, and that's a problem, folks, in my opinion. And we've sent enough money over there that they should have been able to outfit the militia the same as the other. And so it's kind of weird how things have gone on, and there's been a lot of things that we've seen over there that didn't quite make sense. It didn't quite jive, but you know, of course, hey, we got to save democracy.
Could one of those things that don't make sense be that the fact that their president was a comedian?
Well,
that's his background. Does many people know that?
You know, there's been no elections in 3 years since the start of the war. Basically, it's martial law. So Zelensky is the ultimate ruler. It looks a whole lot like a dictator, good, bad, or indifferent. But there's not been a lot of input from his government. He's made most of the calls, if not all. He's the one in control. And like I said, being a comedian, I don't know how much he knows about military. I'm not sure. I'm not going to question that. But, you know, we see a lot of stuff on the internet. You see all this stuff. And he's got a house in Florida. I don't know if any of that's true. I don't know. I just want to know where the money went. Looks like we got a caller here, sir. This is Representative Jeff McNeely. Who we got?
The sick and tired patriot.
Hey, Jesse, how are you?
I'm doing pretty good. I just getting kind of confused on. I don't think we know what a conservative is and democracy is anymore, according to
A lot of different definitions. A lot of different definitions. Depends on who
I'm
you
gonna give
ask.
you about 3 points here.
Lay it on me.
It's got America. If you would just let me call them out, and then you can answer.
All right.
So when all that money was going over to Ukraine, we was giving the money. There wasn't nothing about no mineral that I know of, or I don't think anybody I know heard another senator screaming about their minerals, but there wasn't going to be no IOUs on that money that the taxpayers going to have to fit that bill.
Yep.
And we wasn't going to be drawn into a 10 and 20-year border war in a foreign country. That's number one.
Yeah.
Right? And number two, on the Truth Social, Trump is now wanting to, according to him and him posting his idol, golden idol statue over there on Benghazi, or not Benghazi, but the Gaza Strip, with him and that nut and that Yahoo sitting out there on the beach, sucking down cold beverages while the bearded ladies are walking around.
Okay.
The three.
Don't know much about
that
one.
Yeah.
Stump me on that.
It's about 90 foot. It's on Truth Social. He took it down yet either, man. It's great. And
Photoshopping's a big thing, but
what was the third one here that I was wanting to get to? And Lordy, I had a third thing on my mind. I don't know. It just went blank. Yeah. Y'all was talking about all the smog control and stuff on cars. I think we need to be worried about the jet fuels. I mean, I got a real deep dive on that, man, that we could go into. That's what, if anything needs to be regulated and contaminating our air, that's that.
Well,
and I've got all videos.
You're gonna probably see a bill drop this week, and I'll be one of the main sponsors. Jonathan Alman out of Concord is the main sponsor on it. But I'm also a
come out of my
sponsor.
shop the other night, man. I looked up and they just come over, man. It was god awful. I mean, and I put it on Facebook. You go and pull it up, look, it blow your mind, man.
Well, this bill's coming out, and so we're gonna take a shot at it, try and address it. So we'll see.
People wonder why when they wake up in the morning, why they feel so bad, you know, why they sleep for 12, 14 hours. You know, something ain't right. All right, I'll let you go.
All right, brother.
Sick and tired of everything.
I get you.
Now, if we get this country turned around, people need to vote. We need to be voting every year instead of having these terms.
All right.
But we'll holler at you later.
All right, be good.
Work,
See you, Jesse.
And thanks for listening to my bit. Sick and tired.
Jesse, if you're still listening, this is Tommy. I would love to get into. I would love to get into business of inspecting jet planes. Somehow, I think that would pay more than the cars, and we'd be glad to make trips every day to Statesville Airport. And
well, I just think they need to regulate the fuels a lot better. You know.
Well, you know the additives, all the different things. We're going to find out. That bill's going to pretty much say whatever you're putting in there, quit it. And I think when we put that out there, we're going to find out a lot of people's going to holler that they've been putting stuff in.
That shooting over the bow don't work, you know.
Listen, I think this one.
Months ago.
Yeah, I think this one will get your attention, though. I think this will get your attention. Open them up to civil liability. Usually, when you start talking civil liability, everybody starts running.
I've got another family member now laid in a hospital up here with double pneumonia. It seems like that's what everybody's getting, double pneumonia.
Yeah, I know quite a few people. You're right.
And when all that stuff comes out, and you got this 5G, you're supposed to be equivalent to microwave ovens and stuff coming off your phones. It's just, I'm sick and tired of it, man. We holler at y'all later, man. Good job, Jeff.
All right, be good, brother. See ya.
And we'll work together to do it. Bye.
All right, appreciate you. Well, you know, Jesse brought up a point there. You know, what we're doing over there right now is we're playing with World War III, just like Trump said. You know, he's right. We're trying to figure out a way to get ourselves into World War III, And I don't know why we want to do that when there's a chance to get peace out of this. It's kind of always made it kind of wonder. Most of the time that we end up in a war, it seems like the Democrats are in charge and they tell you how much to love your brother and hug everybody and sing kumbaya. But yet we tend to find a war somehow or another every time. I don't know. I'm just telling you what I do know. So about 183 billion. Zelensky says he can account for it all, but he ain't showed us nothing in paper yet. So when he shows that, then I'll start believing. Till then, I don't know. If anybody, like I said, wants to call in, 704-873-9929. This is ongoing. We will see where this goes. I'm sure there's going to be a lot more negotiations. I will tell you this, when it comes to negotiation, if you don't have leverage, there's not a lot you can do to negotiate, and I don't see where Zelensky's leverage is at. He should take the deal.
Absolutely.
He should take the deal. All right, next thing we're going to talk about here, and I got to explain a little bit of this, y'all, so you understand it. Another bill filed. It's called NC Innovation. And basically, this was something that come up, and it come out of the Senate side of our legislative body. And got a caller? Yeah, let me have it. Hey, this is Representative Jeff McNeely. Who we got?
This is Bobby Staney up in Nebo, North Carolina.
Hey, Bobby, how you doing, brother?
I'm doing good.
What you got on your mind today?
Well, you're talking about the inspection going up.
Yeah.
I think that it ought to be put on the ballot so everybody, all the American people, can vote on it in North Carolina.
Well, that may be a possibility. I ain't gonna say everything's on the table. You know, we have looked at going to every other year. I've heard that been thrown up all of a sudden. So go up on the price, but every other year. I've heard about staggering it. Of course, a lot of people want to do away with it. I think that's a little dangerous. So we'll see. We'll see. The discussion will start probably this week or definitely next week on which way we go and what we do. And the beauty is we're going to try to be just as transparent as Trump and Zelensky was the other day. The meetings will all be online. You can sit and watch them, and you can call your representative or your senator and let them know how you feel, or email them, and we're going to talk this out and see where it goes. And it may not change. There may end up being nothing happen. I don't know, but I do know, like I said, we probably should have been going up incrementally all along, and now we've waited so long. It's a pretty big jump, and that's tough. I get it.
What about all the people that's on a fixed income?
I
mean,
get it. I know.
And another thing that I've got a problem with, whenever you take your car to get it inspected, you've got a fellow that's going to get in your car and drive it in there, and a lot of times he's got grease on his pants. That a lot of them don't put covers on the seats or nothing in the floorboard, and I've got a problem with that. I take care of my car, and I don't want them doing that.
Well, Bobby, hey, this is Tommy Chapman, and I own a shop here in Statesville. And first thing I tell you, you're going to the wrong shop. If they're getting grease on your car, I can tell you, I'm 61 years old, and I've been around my dad's shop my entire life since I was 10. And I can think of maybe one time during those years that we took a car and had it cleaned because somebody actually did, by mistake, get in somebody's car and got some dirt or grease on the seat. And my dad, I can still remember, obviously pretty angry over that with the mechanic. But we took the car and got that cleaned. And I can tell you, in the last 30 years, I don't recall that happening. But if you've got that happening, I'm not saying you don't. If you do, I'll just tell you, I'd find another shop.
Well, I also know this, Bobby. If they put the floor mats down, those paper floor mats, and put a cover over the seat, they're going to probably have to charge more. It's going to be a cost.
Yeah, that costs too. Yeah, absolutely.
Right. Well, it gets back into the same thing where if you do a motorcycle, I mean, they don't get on your motorcycle. Nobody lets anybody else ride their horse. I mean, that's just the way it is.
No, and we don't do motorcycles for that reason. That's why we don't do them.
Well, there's a lift that they have to put the car up on, and so they've got to drive it in and drive it off. Insurance wouldn't let nobody else get near that lift.
And the reason, Bobby, the reason we drive a car in is we have to check the brake pedal and the steering to make sure that there's not. I mean, you're going to think I'm telling you a lie when I tell you this story, but I was just talking to somebody a week or so back, and he told me the story. He's a mechanic, had his own shop out in the country, and a guy showed up, and he literally had a screwdriver welded to his steering column, and he was steering the car with a screwdriver welded to it. And so we see all kind of things, but that's just some of the reasons why that we have to, we have to run the windshield wipers and make sure they work. We have to run your turn signals, make sure they're working, and the actual blinker is blinking. We have to check the bright and dim light that's on your dash, make sure it comes on when you turn your bright lights on. That way you've got them on, you're not blinding somebody. There's a multitude of reasons, but those are the highlights of the reasons why we have to drive it in. And believe me, we have customers that come in and they've got maybe some type of high-end car or a collector car, and they just do not want us, but we have to talk them off the ledge and explain to them, and we'll let them ride with us sometimes, but or we don't go out of their sight, we just pull it right around, pull it straight in the garage. But those are just some of the reasons why we do have to pull them in. The state requires it.
Right. Okay.
Well,
I just
we
think
don't
it needs to be put on the ballot, whether we do need to keep the inspection or whether,
Well, if we do that, then we got to make sure that everybody's informed. And that's what we're doing today. We're trying to be very informational and let other people understand, there's always consequences to actions, whichever way you go. And sometimes there's cost and sometimes there's greater cost. And my job, I feel like, as an elected official to represent the people of my district or the state of North Carolina, is to find the best solution, the most economical, most practical, most safe, most smart solution. Even though I don't like maybe my solution, it's the best option I had. And I always say, never complain about what my solution is till you know the options I had. And so that's kind of what we're doing now, is trying to figure out our options and which one's going to be the best solution. And it could be to do nothing at all. But I think eventually we're going to find it really hard to get people to inspect cars. And it's going to be like trying to get your driver's license, and it's going to take 2 or 3 months and wait 4 or 5 hours. And I can tell you right now, a lot of people just soon pay $16 than to not lose 3 or 4 hours of their life and wait 2 or 3 months to get it. It's going to be a lot of people can't drive their car until they get it because you got to get your tag. So there's a lot of things you got to take into play. I always tell everybody, a lot of things you got to take into play. So when you put something like that on the ballot, we definitely got to make sure we educate the voters. Definitely.
Bobby, this is Tommy again. Did you hear the first part of the talk about?
I did.
Okay.
Did you hear inspection?
Yeah. And we talked about the price of insurance and things. And if we do away the inspections, you just remember to call me, and you can get a hold of me pretty easy. But you just remember to call me, because I'm going to guarantee you that whatever you save on that, you're going to pay triple that in the cost of your insurance in the next year.
I'm with State Farm right now, and they just sent me a letter telling me that in August their insurance is going to go up like 35%. Well, and they hadn't done nothing with the inspection.
Yeah. Well,
so, I mean,
you're right. That don't have anything to do with inspections.
They're looking for a reason, and right now their reasoning is the flooding from northwestern North Carolina and also the flooding from down east. They look at their total property casualty number. And then they come back to the state, and we argue with them, but if they have factual evidence, we'll end up in court with them as far as trying to stop them from getting an insurance. And it'll go to court, and it'll end up in federal court. But if they're not going to lose money, or they'll pull out. You look at those people out in California, a lot of them didn't have fire insurance, and we're all sitting around over here in North Carolina saying, well, there's a reason we didn't have flood insurance. Who in the world ever thought you'd get flooded in the mountains? Well, they knew they would have a fire out there, but the government put such restraints on the insurance companies on not letting them do. They left the marketplace. The government had to create a fire insurance for a lot of those people, and it's very substandard. They're going to be lucky if they get half the value of their house that burnt down. It's because they drove the insurance companies out. They won't stay. We force these stations to do inspections right now. We can't force an insurance company to give y'all insurance unless they charge whatever they kind of want to a point. They'll leave. They'll say no. And that's kind of what's happened with inspections. They're saying we can't make the money, so they're getting out of it. So it's got to be doable. It's got to make sense for private business, but it's, for whatever reasons, they're looking at their casualty numbers, property casualty, and they're saying we're losing money. We have to charge more because of all the damaged vehicles that come from that hurricane, that come from the flooding down east with that tropical storm. So it's kind of a sum end game, as they call it. I don't like it. I got tons of vehicles. I run a business. We run about a dozen trucks, trailers, a lot of private cars, a lot of this. I mean, this is going to cost me. This is going to cost the snot out of me. But I think in the long run, it's going to be cheaper than the alternative. But we don't know. We're going to see where it goes. Just bear with us and watch what we do. That's what I always tell everybody.
This my opinion. I think if you put it on the ballot, I think the American people would vote it out and they would get rid of it because, I mean, they got to be a stopping point somewhere as far as money-wise. I mean, everything is going up. Everybody's wanting to increase.
Yeah.
And wages is not going up, and definitely Social Security's not going up.
Yeah.
So, I mean, you know, they got to be a stopping point somewhere.
Bobby, can I ask you what kind of business are you in down there?
I'm retired.
Okay, you're retired. Yeah.
I'm on a fixed income. Yes, sir.
Absolutely, I understand. Yeah.
And maybe we put something in to help 65 and older. I don't know. You know, there's things to do.
Well, we have,
Billy Buck just
they
looked at me
already-
like I gave him Christmas right then. So I don't know.
Bobby, there's another thing is they already put in place that if your car's 30 years old or older. Now, I know
Yeah.
you don't want to drive around a 30-year-old car unless it's your collector car maybe, but they eliminated the inspections altogether on those.
And that was because a lot of them couldn't pass the inspection.
And then the 20-year-old and older does not have to have the OBD inspection.
Yeah.
It just gets the safety. So they've already trimmed back a couple times on that. So, you know, you got to look at everything.
Yeah.
And,
Yeah. Hey, I appreciate you, Bobby. Thank you for listening.
thanks for calling, Bobby.
Hope it's been a good show. All right, folks, we're working down here to the end of the show here. A lot going on. We'll have to talk about NC Innovation. Basically, that's where our UNC system, we put money in it for those people to do, when they do their research and they invent new drugs or they invent new procedures or they invent different things, they market them. And so it kind of helps push along better things. But yet, there's about $500 million that is kind of out there that probably needs to come back to the state. So we'll have to talk about that next time. All right, Billy Buck, I'm going to go ahead and get done here at the end of the show. I think we're getting pretty close. Let's pray. Tom, and pray with me here, dear Lord. Heavenly Father, dear Lord, tough decisions to make. Everybody's affected. It's not easy. Times are hard. We understand that. And dear Lord, we just pray for this country. We pray for our leaders. We pray that they make wise decisions. We pray that they understand that what they do affects so many in so many different ways, and we all must be conscious of that. So let us be very thorough in what we do and very mindful. Lord, I just pray you watch over us and keep us safe. In Jesus Christ's name, amen. All right, folks, until next week, take care.